Security cameras, red light cameras, webcams. Is there ever a moment we aren't being filmed? Social media, websites, mobile phones, cars that know your exact location at all times, banks, financial institutions, everything we buy, everything we think, we do, is being recorded. The government, in the name of keeping us safe, is becoming more and more intrusive. Dr. Katherine Albrecht, you are considered the world's premier privacy expert. You have a PhD from Harvard. Do we have any privacy left, or is that a concept that no longer applies in our society?
I think there's a temptation to get discouraged or pessimistic about it, but I've been doing this privacy advocacy work since 1999, and I think that I'm actually optimistic because I think for the first time, large swaths of people are actually beginning to wake up and realize that their privacy has been threatened by all of these technologies and by developments by marketers, by government, by hackers, by thieves, by stalkers. I think the average person is aware of privacy issues to a greater extent than at any time in my work.
Well, there are those who think, I've got nothing to hide. Who cares if they've got all this information? It's boring stuff anyways, right? What do you say to that?
Yeah, I think there's a couple ways you can look at it. First of all, if you say I have nothing to hide, eventually the people who are looking to get your information are going to push into one of your boundary areas, and then you'll have no protection. A great example is Kim Kardashian. People may have seen Kim Kardashian revealing the most outrageous of personal information on her TV show. She even had film cameras come in as her doctor was examining eczema on her leg. I mean, talk about something that most
Crazy.
of us would probably want to have private, but there she was with millions of people tuned in to watch.
Right.
And so you would think Kim Kardashian would be a perfect example of someone who would say, well, I don't care about privacy, I have nothing to hide. Until, of course, it begins pushing into her private life, and she recently actually made a plea to the paparazzi to please respect her privacy.
And hasn't our society become somewhat like the Kardashians, and with using Facebook and social media and the web? We're revealing so much of ourselves.
Well, it's become very fashionable. So I think it's really going to be until people start getting burned in very public ways and in very personal ways. I think we're kind of looking at two very competing interests. There's one side that says, the more I can tell you, the better, and the other side that says, but hang on a second, if I tell you too much or if you find out too much about me, that's going to come back and bite me.
Number one, the collection of data and the marketing of data and the sales of data is a huge, huge industry. The insurance industry, when they're deciding whether to insure someone, the data they collect, it also includes the magazines that you subscribe to. And so they are building this profile, not just of perhaps your nutritional, what you eat, what you buy, in terms of what you feed your family, but also the kind of books that you read, the kind of subscriptions to magazines, what you're reading, how you're thinking. So they're making up a profile of who we are.
It's shocking, isn't it?
It's downright scary.
We found just in the supermarkets alone that they can purchase something called a penetration profile on their shoppers to augment the data that they know about you based on your supermarket purchases. They know if you have a cat, they know if you have dandruff, they know if you have a baby, they know if you get married, they know all these things. They know if you're Jewish and celebrating Passover. So all of these things are tracked and duly monitored because of what you buy. But just as you were saying, they can also purchase these additional profiles of you that say the value of your home, your most recent tax bill, your political affiliation and registration. I mean, it's unbelievable what they can pack into there. And I used to think that, that was about as bad as it could get until the Internet really started becoming the key place of privacy invasion. So we've got these databases being kept by the marketers.
And Doctor, tell us about RFIDs. What are they, and how are they being used to track people's moves and purchases and everything we do?
Well, RFID stands for radio frequency identification. And what they are, they're tiny microchips hooked up to miniature antennas that can transmit identification information or ID numbers at a distance. And what makes this kind of new and different, I suppose, from having a barcode on the back of your driver's license is that you have to actually take your driver's license out of your wallet in order for somebody to see it. You require line of sight. You have to actually see it. With RFID, you can put a microchip and an antenna in somebody's wallet, in an ID card in their wallet, and it can transmit not only through their pocket or their purse or their backpack at a distance, but it can literally transmit through walls and through doorways in ways that can be scanned without a person's knowledge. So every physical object could contain, conceivably and actually pretty easily, one of these unique ID numbers. And then the frequent shopper cards that we've been talking about at the supermarket become very relevant as registration programs. Because now when you buy the six-pack of Coke, each of those individual serial numbers and each of those cans is registered to you specifically as an individual. So down the road, the litter police could pick up a discarded can, an empty can of Coke by the side of the road, scan it, figure out that you're the person who bought it, and then send you a ticket for littering in the mail. So the notion that physical objects are just kind of anonymous things in the world would go away, and these physical objects would begin to carry information about who had made them, who had owned them, where they had been seen, where they had traveled to. All of this information would be encoded into the object itself.
Are they microchipping humans anywhere in the world?
There's a bogus couple of companies in Mexico and South America that are, in their marketing materials, lying to people and claiming that implanting a microchip makes someone means that you could find them if they were kidnapped. And they are actively, from what I can tell, now it's hard to tell, they're claiming at least that they have wealthy customers who are having these microchips put in them and then paying a monthly fee to maintain them. That is the biggest scam I think I've ever heard of, because the way the microchip implant works, we don't have implantable GPS right now on the market. Nobody does. What we have is essentially a passive RFID tag with about a 6-inch read range maximum. Okay. So you can't, the thing about GPS, if you wanted to GPS track a person at this point in time, you'd have to do it through a wristwatch. You could embed a GPS device into a pair of shoes or a backpack. They do that in Japan for kids. There are ways to track people with GPS, but if you wanted it to be an implantable device, you would have to have a power source, a battery. And you can't, it's too big to implant into the human body. You couldn't just inject it easily. It would be a big device the size of, a wristwatch. And even then, its battery pack would run out of juice after 6 months or so and would have to be replaced. So probably the closest thing you could get to that would be like a pacemaker, where people literally have a plug hanging out of their chest that they plug in at night and keep the juice flowing. That's what you would have to do to have an implantable GPS device, and I'm not aware of such things being on the market at this time.
So do you think that's coming? Do you think they're working on that?
I think that what is probably going to happen is even creepier. I think what's probably going to happen is that we will find a way to use the glucose cycle in the human body that powers us to power electronics. And when that happens, look out, because we already know that Google, and I want to get back to them, Google, the founders of Google, when asked what they want to become, they said like the mind of God. And this company is absolutely mind-blowingly scary. One of the things that they'd like to do is have, literally, they've said this, brain implants in us that would be able to answer our questions before we ask them.
Katherine, it's pretty overwhelming, the amount of information that's out there and how we're being attacked in so many different ways. And you have been such a leader in getting this kind of information out there in so many ways. Let's talk quickly. We've got one more thing that I want to bring up. The RFID with schools in the San Antonio case that you've been really involved with.
Yeah, so this summer, the one of the poorest school districts in the state of Texas, which is the Northside Independent School District in San Antonio, where it's primarily single parents. There's a lot of parents serving overseas, with one parent gone. There's a lot of students on food stamps. It's truly a very depressed part of Texas there in that area of San Antonio. And they chose that district to trial a technology that I think is truly horrifying. It's probably the worst application I've ever seen of RFID other than implants in Alzheimer's patients. What they've done is they've required 4,200 kids in that district to wear tracking beacons based on RFID around their necks from the time they leave home, get on the bus, get to school, they are emitting a 140-foot swath of a unique ID number that's emanating from a tag around their necks. So they have their lanyards, the thing you put around your neck and hang your ID from. The IDs have 2 button batteries in them, and they don't have an off switch. There's no way to ever turn them off. So whether these kids are at school or at home, they're beaming out 140 feet of their personal unique ID number. The school has placed reader devices every 100 feet in the ceiling so they can pinpoint the precise location of every kid once a minute all day long throughout the entire school day. And so they pinpoint whether you're in the bathroom, whether you're in the nurse's station, whether you got up to get a drink of water, whether you're in math class, whether you sat next to Sally or, Kendra at the lunch table today. All of that being recorded into their database. So we got together before school started with our colleagues in the privacy community, so the ACLU and EPIC and EFF and all the big privacy groups around the world. And we issued a position statement in opposition to this. We also flew out and supported Andrea Hernandez, who is the 10th grade honor student who is opposing this. On the first day of school, we helped her to put together a protest outside of the school, and we held picket signs and spoke to the media and opposed this. Helped her line up media interviews all over the world, really, to talk about this. And right now, the school, she has refused to wear it for religious reasons. She believes it is conditioning people to accept the mark of the beast. And to be honest, I agree with her. But you don't have to take a religious view to hate this technology. It's truly appalling that they're doing this, and especially doing it to kids without any political power. They can't vote the bums out of office. They're legally required to go to school. They're not 18. They don't have any political power, and their parents, in many cases, are people who are not in a position to speak up because they don't have enough education themselves. Some of them are not even legally in the country. I mean, it's truly a captive population. KMAshow.com, and a practical solution, because I always feel like I leave people discouraged when I talk about all this dark stuff, is I have kind of switched from just talking about the negatives to really working on solutions. And one of the solutions that I have helped to create is the Start Page website. It is the alternative to Google. Startpage.com does not record your IP address, makes no record of any visits from anybody. We have no idea who uses us. If we got subpoenaed or hacked, God forbid, there would be nothing to get because we keep no records. And what we do is we submit your request to Google, get real-time Google results for you, clean them of all tracking cookies and nastiness, and then serve them back to you with 100% privacy at startpage.com.
And it's fast.
It is. It's fast, and it's free, and it is third-party certified. You can add it to your browser, make it your homepage, and I'm encouraging people to take the Google needle out of their arm. And then the final thing I will say, we're coming out, as I said at the beginning of the hour, with private email, which will start mail. And if people would like to beta test our new email when it comes out this spring, they can send an email to beta, B-E-T-A as in alpha beta, at startpage.com, beta at startpage.com, and just let us know that you heard it on this radio program.
Perfect.
On Living Wealthy Radio. There you go.
Living Wealthy Radio. Well, we want to say, Katherine, that you are certainly someone to follow if you're interested in preserving our civil liberties, our privacy. The information that you present on your show is fantastic, and just so glad that we had a chance to get together today.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I'm 2 hours live every Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 Eastern or 3 to 5 Central, and you can find it at kmashow.com. I also do a show on Saturdays through the lunch hour, and would love to encourage new listeners to tune in and check it out.
Fantastic.
Living Wealthy Radio. Visit Teresa's team online at livingwealthyradio.com, 1-800-382-0830 now. Call 1-800-382-0830.